Well, it was a wide-ranging speech by President Macron. He also spoke of what he called a weakening Europe on the world stage. Have a listen.
I believe that the international context is becoming more complicated and that there is a risk of a weakening of the West, and more particularly of our Europe. Firstly, there's a dilution of our population and our produced wealth, of our share in the world trade. This has become even more true since the crisis of 2008 to 2010 and as a result of the emergence of major international powers.
France 24's Angela Diffley was listening to that speech with me, a speech that's still going on after about a good hour and a half. Angela, Macron earlier was warning against what he called this risk of a weakening West. Tell us a bit more about that.
He was also referring to the BRICS Plus summit recently, this idea that Western dominance is really being challenged now. And he said, this is what's happening. We need to take notice of it. There is, if you just look at the Ukraine war, often a perspective from what we sometimes call the global south or any other countries outside the US and Europe, that when a country is invaded elsewhere in the world, it is seen as a territorial dispute. When it is a country which involves Europe or the US, it is seen as a matter of universal values and something quite different. That really irritates countries outside the West, and there's this growing challenge to the West. I think he wanted to talk a little about Africa as well, which he alluded to so much in that speech. Of course, we've all seen what's been happening in Niger in recent weeks. And this is an anti-Western narrative, but also an anti-French narrative, which is increasingly taking hold in Africa. We saw it in Mali, in Burkina Faso, in Niger.